Red alert! Set an intention. Go to Salon track.
Ahoy, hoy, friends, and welcome to a Salon Supplemental. I'm your host, Stan Williams, and I'm the one who drank all the coffee in that nebula. Tonight, we are so excited to have David Livingston joining us live to talk about his incredible career across 4 Star Trek series. But before we get into that conversation, all the podcast things, we are live Thursdays on YouTube at Salon Trek. You can find us on social media or any of the podcast places at Salon Trek. We are also on Patreon. If you can support our nonsense, we will certainly appreciate it. And we've got some fun benefits for you. Get excited because we have some really exciting programming coming up, including, of course, tonight with our special guest. So let's beam in our crew, starting with my co-host, Trevor. How you do?
Delighted.
Speaking of delighted, here's Will.
Hello.
Here's Ken. How you do?
I'm good. I'm excited for our guests and excited to be with all my friends tonight.
And we've got, of course, Matt. How you do?
Oh, I'm here. Hi.
And Joanne. Joanne, how you do?
Hi, I'm great.
All right, friends. Well, get excited. We have a nearly full panel to talk with our special guest. Let's go ahead and beam him aboard, shall we? Hello, David. Welcome to the Salon.
Joy of doing these live.
I do now hear you.
You do now hear us. Haha.
When in doubt, reboot.
Yep.
And Stan, why don't we not do any additional video? I know we have a couple of cuts for videos, but let's not do anything with audio in it so that we don't risk losing David again.
Yeah. I think that is correct.
Which means we can just sort of jump right in if you're comfortable, Stan, with our intention setter question.
Yes, please. Go for it.
Normally we would have a very fun video wherein a candle appears and I hold up this one and it looks like I did this all by myself. But that's not what we're doing right now. So we will dive right in, David. First, thank you so much for being here. It means a lot to all of us. Our first question is what we call an intention setter. And for our special guests, it's always the same question, which is simply, what is your either favorite bit or just a bit of Star Trek headcanon? So something that's never been seen on screen about Star Trek, but you just know it to be true.
Well, I know it to be true because Rob Legato told me. I don't know if you guys know who Rob Legato was, but he was one of the visual effects supervisors starting back on The Next Generation. And he went off to have a stellar career, which resulted in multiple Academy Awards, including for Titanic. He made it very clear to me about what the Enterprise was. And he says it's nothing but plastic on a stick. And that's always resonated with me because that's all we are, is we're in a business of fantasy and prestidigitation and making something out of whole cloth, especially on Star Trek, where everything had to be created from a void that didn't exist. It's science fiction. So we can't go to Encino to shoot in somebody's living room. That doesn't pass. So Rob put things in perspective about what the show was. Now with digital effects, we no longer shoot motion control shots, which is why the Enterprise had to be plastic on a stick. But now it can be all done with bits and bytes and zeros and ones. New era.
I love all of that. But that kind of leads me to a question of just sort of your not professional introduction to Star Trek, but what was your first contact personally with Star Trek? Were you a fan of the original series, the films?
I was not. I grew up in the 60s, and I was a teenager and watch Man from U.N.C.L.E. That was really my favorite show. But I knew about Star Trek. I didn't watch it. I knew about the guy with the pointed ears, and his name was Spock, and things like that. But my first introduction to Star Trek came with the Robert Wise film, the first Star Trek movie, which I thought was phenomenal. Robert Wise is a treasured director. Most people don't know he was the editor on Citizen Kane, and ended up having a stellar career. West Side Story, The Sound of Music, and I think the first Star Trek movie is phenomenal. I know it doesn't always get great kudos, but man, I thought the largesse of it and the majesty of it and the humor and the characterizations and everything and the visualizations I thought were pretty phenomenal for certainly for that time.
Yeah, I have a deep fondness for it as well. But I think for me personally, not that this interview is about me, but for me personally, Encounter at Farpoint and Star Trek: The Next Generation mean a ton. Your first professional job with TNG was started right there at the beginning with Encounter at Farpoint. You were a unit production manager, is that correct?
That's correct.
And how did that job come about? And what were those early days like?
I was doing Movies of the Week over at a defunct part of ABC called ABC Circle Films. And the production exec there got a call from Michael Schoenbrunn, who was the head of physical production at Paramount Television. And he was looking for somebody to be a unit production manager on a pilot. And the exec liked me, and she recommended me to Michael, and I went in and interviewed with him. And then he sent me over to meet Rick Berman and Bob Justman, and the rest is history for me. This was in January of '87. I was the first person in the production offices, which was a trailer, and I was the only one there for a month before everybody started to migrate over. But I wasn't there from the inception, because when I got there, Herman Zimmerman, the production designer, had already started construction on the sets. And there were 3 sound stages already with sets on them. And I was blown away. This was not your normal pilot. And you knew right away that Paramount had some pretty clear intentions about this show. They weren't going to let it get away. They knew they had the goose that laid the golden egg. And they were going to keep laying those proverbial eggs, golden ones.
Thank you. Stan, I think you have our next question. And you're on mute right now.
Always on that mute button. You worked your way up from producing into directing, and that's what we want to spend a good chunk of our time talking about, because for the audience, you directed 62 episodes of Star Trek, including 2 from The Next Generation, 17 across all 7 seasons of Deep Space Nine, 28 across every season of Voyager. That's more than 15% of all Voyager episodes, by the way, and 15 episodes across each season of Enterprise, which also sadly ended up being 15% of those episodes because it was tragically canceled too soon. But just looking at an episode from each series, you can sort of see a technological evolution. But I'm curious if you could talk about the differences working on each of those shows and, the evolution of your directing style.
You mentioned that it was I don't know if you said promotion from producer to director. They are such disparate occupations that there is no hierarchy to them. I had gone to film school and always wanted to be a producer director. When I got into Star Trek, they made me a producer. And then Rick Berman developed what was called the DIP School, which was a director in training program for anybody behind the scenes or any cast members who had designs on wanting to direct. And the first graduate of the DIT school was Jonathan Frakes. So it clearly showed that the formula could work. So if you indicated to Rick that you had a passion for directing and were willing to go to the DIT school, which was doing intensive study of the show, and what you saw as a director, then at some point he might give you a shot if he thought you were ready. So Rick offered me that, and after 9 months of going back into therapy, I went to him one day and said, I want to give it a shot, and he said, okay.
Nice. And did you find any differences working from Next Generation to Deep Space Nine, from Deep Space Nine to Voyager, and then on to Enterprise? Were there any weird challenges from one to the other, or was directing just directing regardless of the show?
Yeah, directing is directing. You read the script, and your job is to take words on a page and translate that into pictures, and with those pictures and the performances, try and evoke an emotional response from the audience, reflecting the intention of the authors and what they were going for emotionally, because that's what it's all about. If you don't have the emotion there, it's vapid and empty, and nobody's going to want to pay attention. And in terms of my quote unquote directing style, I look at my very first episode, and I did nothing later any more or any different than I did in the first episode. In fact, I pushed the envelope significantly in my first episode and did things with the camera that I will say were surprising to the producers and the writers, not always positively, but they didn't make me reshoot anything. So it aired. So my directing style never changed, but my confidence level rose. I used to micromanage and write down all these extensive notes and where all my camera angles were going to be. And at some point, I stopped doing that, and I prepared by reading the script and understanding every scene and thinking about where I wanted to be at the beginning of the scene and the end of the scene. And I was going to let the actors show me what they were going to do in the middle there. And if I could incorporate what they did, then I would shoot it that way. The actors know their characters much better than I ever do. They have to have done their study. They have to know their given circumstances. They have to know their motivation. And if they can translate that into physical activity for me, then it's organic. And I look at it and I look at their staging and say, okay, yeah, that works. I'll shoot that. Now, sometimes some of the actors, I would suggest that they do something different, or I was going to do something different with a camera, and it might force some restaging on their part. And they weren't always happy with that. But I had to answer, the actors have a character. I also had a character. My character was the camera, and I had to be honest to my character. I respected their character, but my job was to tell the story from what my character said should be my given circumstances and what the camera should be at that point. Is it static? Is it moving? Is it whatever it is? Is it a oneer, or are there quick cuts? All of the tools that we have as filmmakers. So I hope that answered your question. But basically, stylistically, I technically, wonderful things happened. The last season 4 of Enterprise, we started shooting digitally, and that was so freeing for a director, because I could now see on the monitor what the audience was going to see. And that's a great gift. And I still depended on the camera operator's eye to determine whether it's good or not. And if they said no, then I would respect that, even though I thought it might have been perfect. Also, it allowed me to have a free second camera. I rarely use second camera, but it didn't cost anything. You could keep rolling all the time. A film roll was 1,000 feet, which is almost 10 minutes of time. And when you ran out of that 1,000 foot magazine, you had to reload the camera. And all of a sudden, everything stopped on the set. And it took 5 minutes or so for the assistant camera person to come in and put a new magazine on the camera. With the digital technology, you can keep rolling. And I'm very much in favor of that, because you can be doing a take and all of a sudden there's a kerfuffle or somebody goes up on the line. Now, instead of saying cut, back to one, the wrecking crew comes in with makeup and hair and wardrobe and I mean, it's just insane. And that 5 minutes becomes 10 minutes. With digital technology, you just keep rolling. And I say back to one, or pick it up right now. Don't cut, keep going. And it's free. Film costs a couple dollars a foot by the time you shot it and developed it and printed it or whatever. Digital, yeah, you have to pay for the storage, but that's cheap now. So technically, the last season of Enterprise was a delight for me from directing. And then also random access editing and post-production. We used to have to edit on these video cassettes, and you'd have to build the show as you went along. If you went back and wanted to make a change in the middle, you had to rebuild the whole show again because it was analog technology. There was no way of randomly moving scenes around and cuts around. When digital editing came in, it's called random access editing. Now you had the freedom to instantaneously change everything and also keep all the cuts that you had before and say, well, can I go back and look and see what we did there? Or let's do this. And the speed that you could digitally access information. So as a director from a post-production standpoint, especially an episodic director, which is what I was, and you have limited post-production rights and time to edit, it was a gift because now you could do everything so much faster and more efficient. So the digital technology to me revolutionized the business. I became a professional photographer for 20 years and only became a professional when digital photography came along. And I could never have done analog photography. I tried it and when I was younger. Analog photography, I hated it. I hated dealing with the labs and the film and the reloading, and you only had 36 exposures.
Yeah, me too. I tried it once when I was in high school, taking a class. It was such a mess.
Yeah, and I tried developing it. I mean, it was ridiculous. So I gave it up. Digital technology came in and it changed everything. So I am grateful that I've been around long enough to experience this revolution. And unfortunately, AI is problematic, and I don't know where it's going to take us. My sympathies to anybody entering the arts now, because we don't know what profound impact it's going to have. As a photographer, to me, it's a moribund job now. People can create these incredible photographic, realistic pictures that are better than anything I could take. So this whole AI thing is very problematic, and I'm not sure what's going to transpire. So I guess I got out of the game at the right time.
Well, getting you right back in there, though, because I'm curious. I wanted to talk a little bit more about something you had said earlier about the writer's intent on an episode that you are directing. You know, I'm thinking about a couple from Deep Space Nine that, from a viewer's perspective, I think had a really interesting challenge, and that was several episodes of Deep Space Nine that centered around the Ferengi that you directed, and taking into account that the Ferengi had been introduced in The Next Generation, got redeveloped along Deep Space Nine. You even wrote the story for the Nagus. I'm really curious about how you see your role as a director in what you were talking about earlier. If you could expand on the writer's goal, the goal of the episode, and how that informs your directing choices.
Yeah, Ira Bear gave me a story credit on the Nagus, but in all honesty, they bought a story, an A story where Quark has these business dealings with all these high mucky mucks from around the galaxy and the Gamma Quadrant. And the B story was about Jake teaching Nog how to read. That's what they were interested in. That's the main reason they bought the story. I went to the pitch meeting. I went to the story development meeting, and Michael Piller said, "What are we going to do about the A story? David's story doesn't work." And everybody sat there for about 20 seconds, and Michael Piller finally said, "Let's do The Godfather." And that solved everything at that point. And Ira went home and wrote The Godfather that weekend, and I came in the next week, and we got to shoot The Godfather. But the Ferengi in The Next Generation were ridiculous. Those whips and the nastiness and all that, it didn't happen. And Rick and Michael, in their infinite wisdom, decided to redirect them. And if you're going to have a permanent cast member as an alien species, they have to have humanity about them. They have to be relatable. They can be nefarious and do nasty stuff, but they have to be charming. So they created Quark. Now, the key to that is casting, and they cast the perfect actor for that. My dear, dear, dear friend Armin Shimmerman, who was perfect. He is the most giving, loving, perfect actor to have ever existed, and he brought that humanity and life to the character. So when you talk about intention, the intention of the writers was to make the Ferengi accessible so that you didn't turn off to them. Now, a lot of the audience still did, and Armin, you get hate mail, but the Ferengi, I've always said this to Armin, and he kind of agrees with me, is that the Ferengi are us. They to me are more representative of the 21st century humans than the 24th or whatever century Deep Space Nine was in, where all these people were a little bit more evolved than we are. So I have a tremendous fondness for the Ferengi, and always had a great time working with them, and working with another great actor who played the Nagus, and that's Wallace Shawn, who again brought, and there's humor. The Ferengi are funny, even when they're serious and doing these horrible things and conniving and stuff. Their goofy makeup and the way that they talk and the teeth and the lines they are given, they're charmingly funny. So I love them. Can't say
I agree. I love the Ferengi episodes, and I'm gonna bring on another panelist in a moment, but I want to talk just really briefly about two-part episodes, if we can. For folks in the audience who may not know, in TV, a two-part episode usually had a director per episode for timing, overlapping of departments, and post-production, etc. But while you do have of several two-parters in your credits, you also have a rare distinction of having directed both episodes of a two-parter with Equinox. That, of course, happened over the break. You had a cliffhanger across seasons, but you also had Killing Game, which, while now is shown as a two-part, its first run was sort of like a TV movie, the first for Voyager, and only the second time Trek had done that outside of pilots. And I'm curious if you could just talk about directing halves of two-parters versus both of them handing off or taking from other directors, and just what that can be like on the back end.
For Equinox, that's the one that spanned the hiatus period, and Rick gifted me doing the season ending and then the opening episode, the second part of the two-parter. When we wrapped the first episode, I asked the writers, I said, okay, what's next? What's going to happen? And they said, we don't know. They didn't have a clue. They said, thank God we have time to figure out what we're going to do, because and I believe them. They really didn't know what they were going to do at that point. But it was great to be able to follow through. I'm an episodic director. I like beginning, middle, and end of a 46, 47-minute television show, and it's over, and that there's no connective tissue or anything. But doing the two-parter was fun. First of all, to work with, what's his name, who played Ransom, the actor, Academy Award-winning actor. Whatever, his name. I know him well. I don't know why I can't think of his name. So it was great to work with him. And he always wanted, I've seen him for many times over the years, and he's always said he wanted a spin-off of his character. Even though he died in the show, he still wanted to have a spin-off show about him. So that was fun. And then you asked about the Killing Game. I did not direct the second part. I was fortunate to direct the first part. I don't remember if I ever directed a second part, but if I did direct a second part, I would look at if there was a cut available. There might not have been. I'd at least look at the dailies from that director, and not to match them stylistically, because I couldn't do that. I wouldn't know how to do that. I can only do what I see, and that's not vanity. That's simply I don't have the tools or the wherewithal to try and take on somebody else's visual style. But being able to do the first part of the Killing Game was great. It was one of my greatest experiences as a director, being able to shoot on the back lot at Universal and we did World War II. It was great. And Kate was a Klingon, and Jerry Ryan was a French chanteuse in a World War II French cafe. And
one of my favorite non-Trek projects is The Good Place, and whenever I watch it, I'm like, it's Killing Game.
Yeah,
I've seen that place.
Yeah. I always love the episodes where we got off the damn ship, or Deep Space Nine's different, but which isn't really Star Trek in my mind. But if we could get off the ship and go onto the holodeck and assume different personalities, or go to a planet, or get possessed, or do anything to get out of our norm, that's what I really relished, and I was able to really get my teeth into it. On Enterprise, I got to do a zombie movie. There was no question about it was called Impulse. There's no question about it. And I told everybody, I said, okay, we're going to do this, and it's going to be a zombie movie. Throw away any preconceptions you have about Star Trek, because we're not going to do that. We're going to do a zombie. And we did.
And it was incredible.
Just a quick note, actor John Savage is the name that you were looking for.
You say that right away. John is a sweetheart.
All right, well, I am going to disappear and bring on Joanne for our next question.
Okay. Ooh.
Hello. Hello. So I get to talk to you about The Visitor. And in doing some research, it was clear that the episode was deeply respected by everybody involved in its creation. It was wildly acclaimed by fans and critics, even earned a Hugo Award nomination. And today it is absolutely one of the most beloved franchises of the episodes of the franchise, I should say. But have you ever directed an episode kind of where the audience's reception, kind of whether positive or negative, was significantly different from your own expectations or intentions during the production?
It's been over 30 years, and I go to the conventions when they invite me, and the overwhelming response that I get to The Visitor is mind-blowing. To know that we were doing this show for 7, maybe 8 days. I don't remember the shooting schedule. I think it was only 7 days. When you do a show, you really don't, you're just trying to make it through the day to live another day. And we knew that we were doing something special, but nobody really knew how special it was and how it continues to resonate. I look at these podcasters today, and some of them are, they're kids, and they talk about how meaningful and how emotionally powerful The Visitor is, and how they cried. And that is so gratifying to know that a piece of entertainment that you worked on has such a profound effect on people, and they relate it directly to the deaths of their own parents, and it's quite phenomenal. I'm still flabbergasted by the response. All I know is I had a incredibly loving time directing it because of Tony Todd. He was one of the nicest, most generous, giving, humble, gentle people I've ever met. And he and I used to shop at the same market here in Hollywood until he moved to Marina Del Rey. And we used to see each other all the time. And we would just hug. Fortunately, on a podcast, I was able to talk about The Visitor with he and Sirach and Rachel Robinson, and it was really terrific to be able to revisit The Visitor. So it's phenomenal to see what has happened. I'm behind the camera, right? I go to these Star Trek conventions, and I'm a mini celebrity. I'm a legend in my own mind. It's crazy. People recognize me because they remember me from previous conventions or from podcasts or whatever. And you don't know what an ego boost that is, but also how gratifying it is to be part of this community that shares what we think are common values, and we're all aspiring for something, and we're all experiencing these emotions through these shows. And I'm not just referring to The Visitor. People want to hear about so many of the episodes, and as a director, you don't know how gratifying that is. I'm not a writer. It all starts with the word. I give all kudos, especially in television, to the writers. It's a writer's medium, and I was just grateful to be able to get the opportunity to direct those words and know that it's still going on. I mean, it's the next generation, and it's the next generation. How wonderful is that? And Paramount keeps playing them, so I get the residuals, which is probably the best of all.
That certainly doesn't hurt, right?
I cash them all. I even have 2 checks over here on my wall for 1 cent each of them, but I cashed them.
You earned that and so much more. But I appreciate you mentioning the sort of fandom that you yourself have, because it just speaks to Star Trek in and of itself. I mean, the Salon, we're the friend group that we are was brought together because of Star Trek. We didn't all know each other before we started doing this. This sort of came together organically through friendships, and the Star Trek family is exactly that. It's a family, and you're a part of it, and we're a part of it, and it's a wonderful thing. So,
and again, you guys say this kind of stuff, but today you guys are as integral to the process as I am, because you are keeping it alive. You are presenting. You have the passion for it. You have the knowledge about it. So you are carrying the torch forward. So I'm grateful to you guys that do this. And I'm being absolutely genuinely honest with you about that. I'm not trying to just, give you props. So it's so wonderful that people are so invested in this little, not little world, in this world. You go to the convention. To me, it's like a religious experience. It's going to a cathedral. People are dressed up in vestments. They're wearing weird kind of costumes and masks, and they're talking about alien species. And I mean, you think you're at a Scientology convention sometimes, but that's okay. I know all about Scientologists. I live in Hollywood.
Well, speaking of this family, I think we're going to have another member join us. So I think Matt's going to pop in with a question about one of his Star Trek passions, which is Voyager. So I will turn it over to Matt for the next question.
Hey, David. I mean, obviously, first, thank you for being here, as everyone else has said 1,000 times. Voyager was what I kind of grew up on watching with my mom, having Kate as my second mom on TV, kind of feeling like I was growing up on the ship. So really, it is an honor to be able to talk to the man who gave us, some what I think are the best episodes of the entire series. I mean, you did Future's End, Scorpion, Scientific Method, which I always love seeing unhinged Janeway, pushed to the limits, and kind of what you did with camera tricks with that to build tension. Night, 11:59, which was of course a wonderful out of the box. You know, you were talking about getting off the ship. 11:59, we get to actually be in a bookstore and see what, you know, modern day life is. And of course, Equinox, which we've talked about too. I'm curious though, looking back, obviously you didn't have as much time, you didn't have as much budgetary expenses as they do now. If you could go back and just pick, like, is there a one episode that you did that you would love to revisit with, you know, a modern budget of, you know, what are they now, $5 million, $10 million an episode, it feels like. Is there one that stands out that you would love to go back and revisit or redo or give another shot to?
No.
Great. Well, thank you. That was a wonderful.
I'll give you some backup to that. I love directing, and I always gave 100%. I never walked away from. I only walked away from one moment, and that was in my first episode, and I always regretted it and said I'd never do it again, and they never did it again. So I gave everything that I could at that day and time for that episode. So for you to ask that kind of question is not applicable to me, because I left it all on the floor. And so that's.
That's wonderful to hear too, that you had as much passion every day going into it as we see coming out of it on the back end too. And that's what it definitely. It means the world to me to even just be able to thank anybody that was part of that process, just because it was such a big part of my life and something that was so integral for getting me through some hard times too. So in the same way, I would thank, you know, Kate, if she were here. I thank you for being such a big part and bringing that to life too. Because it really does. Every time you look at Voyager, you see the passion behind it too. It's just always interesting to see, you know, Voyager film styles and set design and everything versus, you know, the new, obviously, as you were talking about, digital, everything has changed now. So it's just interesting to see that generation versus this generation too. So I wasn't sure if there's anything that you'd like to see, you know, done up in a bigger way. But it's great to hear that you feel good with all of it.
I'm curious, just because Matt mentioned it. Stan asked originally, like, you know, what was style like as you moved through the different series, and we got your answer to that. But I'm curious if, because Kate has spoken particularly more recently about the weight that she felt and that she carried of being the first, you know, female captain to lead a series. I'm wondering if that weight affected the series in your opinion as a director. Did you feel any of that at all, or did you observe that pressure, or was that anything that you could pick up on?
Kate is a consummate professional. She never revealed that. The only time it was revealed, and we all know the story, is when Jerry came on the show.
Sure.
But I won't get into that. All I know is when Kate replaced Geneviève Bujold and walked onto the set the first day, she didn't even have to open her mouth. The way that she carried herself with confidence and authority, with the companion compassion and empathy, all combined into one person, it was a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. Why Rick and Jerry Taylor and Michael Piller didn't do that to begin with. Rick now is saying he didn't want Geneviève and the studio wanted her and all this. We don't know what the real story is, but it was a horrible, horrible mistake. Mm-hmm. And so Kate, to answer your question more directly, Matt, she never revealed anything about her inner life, if it was there at all. I don't know. Mm-hmm. She's telling me this because she said it, but I never experienced it. She, like all the other captains, including Cisco, who became a captain finally, first ones on the set, didn't take any guff from anybody, were the consummate leaders. We were so gifted for the four that we had, because they were clearly leaders and justifiably running a space station or a starship.
Wonderful. Well, with that, I think we're going to bring Ken up for a question. So, Ken, we will turn it over to you, sir. Oh, you're on mute, Ken.
Now I'm not on mute. Thank you, David. Thank you so much for all your insightful answers. It's amazing. It's great to have you here. In my work, I have the opportunity to work with a number of Star Trek actors because I do a lot with philanthropy and health and awareness and so forth. So I want to thank you. And you mentioned Armin Shimmerman, who is also so important with philanthropy. Thank you for your inspiring support of St. Jude's and all your philanthropic work. And I just wanted to know if you wanted to take a chance to take a moment to talk about how the positive real world impact of the Star Trek universe and how philanthropic folks have been, including yourself.
John Billingsley is a good friend of mine, and he started developing this podcast called Trek Talks, which was in support of the Hollywood Food Coalition. And I jumped on board, and I was on the board of the Hollywood Food Coalition for 3 years. And I participated in the first couple of Trek Talks where we raised, I think we raised $100,000 the first year and 100 after that, or 120. Rod Roddenberry contributed significantly, as did a lot of Brown and Braga made a significant contribution. Rick Berman, a lot of Star Trek cohorts did. But we had these 8-hour Trek Talks yearly Trek Talkathon, or whatever you want to call it. And again, that was in support of the Hollywood Food Coalition. And also I've shot videos for PanCan for the past couple of years, which John Billingsley's mother died of pancreatic cancer. Jonathan Frakes' brother died. Armin, Kitty Swank is a decades-long survivor of pancreatic cancer. So I am grateful to participate in anything that can reach the Star Trek community, to talk to them about, if you believe in the ethos of Star Trek, then this is a way to express it in a direct and real way by giving your time and or money to these incredibly worthwhile organizations. And recently, I was able to do the St. Jude podcast. I'm not directly involved in St. Jude, but when they asked me to appear, I gratefully did it. So John is also doing this thing. I can't remember the name of it. But it's a whole organization now to put the word out about the Trek community and how involved they are in so many socially significant events, especially with the government pulling back on stuff and whatever. More and more, we're going to have to rely on private donations and foundations and corporations to take over, to take up the slack. And anything the Star Trek community can do to help that, I'm 100% behind it.
Trektivism, I think, is what you were referring to.
Thank you, Trektivism. Yeah, that's just a new thing. So, yeah, Trektivism is saying ism. It's all about an ism.
Yes.
It's activity. Do something. It's great to sit and watch the television, but at some point you got to get off the couch and decide, okay, I just watched something that inspired me or taught me something or emotionally affected me. Now, what do I do with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe do something. I'm not saying you have to. I'm saying you have the opportunity in this community that we have to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And you make a difference.
Absolutely. And I think that's a big part of what being a Star Trek fan is all about and should be all about. And, I appreciate that. I have one more question. I'm just going to sneak a question in. Obviously, there's a big new focus on Star Trek with Paramount and with all the changes at Paramount. And there's lots of new attention to what Star Trek can be. If someone were to come to you and ask your advice and say, from your history, we're thinking about maybe a new showrunner to a new Star Trek, what advice would you give to someone who's in the industry now that's about to embark on Star Trek?
That's an impossible question, Ken. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to but I have no clue. It's so amazing to me how these kernels of ideas come up in people's heads, and all of a sudden, it's taken over the world. George Lucas was 2 years ahead of me at USC. We were actually watching his films, THX, his short. We watched that in film school, and he was gone for 2 years. So it already showed that he was going to make his mark. He had this idea in his head, and look what happened. So somebody that you are talking about, they're going to do that themselves. They don't need somebody suggesting to them. They're going to come up with something that is so unique and so cool that it's going to take the world by storm. So I don't know who the next George Lucas is going to be. I don't know who the next Gene Roddenberry is going to be. But they're out there. And with digital technology, Steven Spielberg had to shoot on 16 millimeter and 8 millimeter when he was a kid. These kids now, this instrument is a 4K camera, and it's the best photographic and video instrument ever invented. So there's no excuses. If you've got an idea and you have the passion, go out and make a movie. You can do it with your friends, and you can do it for $0.
Yeah, that's great. And Star Trek is such. Go ahead. Sorry.
Just tell a story.
And Star Trek is a big enough canvas for many, many, many stories. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
This is the part of our show where we like to bring in a little bit of levity, and to do that, we're going to bring Will in, who's going to. Oops.
I will.
We're bouncing around. There we are. I will turn it over to Will. Will, take it away.
All right. So this is the questionnaire. We take this very seriously. Okay. You don't have to at all. Okay. First question. What's the best sandwich?
I'm vegan, and I'm very partial to wheat tacos with vegan cheese, and I put them into the toaster oven.
Delicious. Love it. All right, next question. If you could erase one episode from Trek history, which one would you erase?
The one that I did on Deep Space Nine about where this alien takes over Sirach's head as a writer. What was it called? And Major.
The Muse.
Yeah.
I love that episode. The only mistake in that episode was Loxana's headdress. It was the only time she had a fashion don't.
You love that episode, really? Okay.
There's some fun. There's some fun.
To me, it was the ultimate writer's conceit. What can be? It was about a writer writing what it's like to be a writer. What can be more boring? It was insidiously boring, and it was supposed to be the A story, but people responded to the Loxana story because at least it had Majel chewing the scenery. So and her with Odo and Renee. So, but boy, it was the one of the few episodes where I had no clue what to do, and it shows. The directing's awful because I had nothing. You try and find a premise, even if you have to make it up to hang your hat on, and I had nothing.
Well, that's a good enough reason. Yeah. All right. Next question. What number am I thinking of?
4.
That's it, actually. That's it. Yeah. Okay. Carpet or on a starship or no carpet?
No carpet.
No carpet. Controversial opinion.
Well, carpet is ridiculous. They did that for Saturn or whatever. First of all, when you do dolly shots on the carpet, you can't go really fast. And I always wanted to move the camera really fast, and it was difficult. With Steadicam, we could do it. We could run down the corridors, and it did mute the sound, and you don't have to worry about the feet making noise. So I get it. I understand why. But also the look of a clean, metallic, whatever kind of quality you get off of a floor. a rug looks like a rug, and it's not
Right.
not very interesting.
I hear you. One of my favorite things to do is to watch like Next Generation in 4K and then pick out where you can see where the marker tape, where like the tape is on the floor, where you can see like a candy wrapper hiding in a corner, because all that stuff kind of gets revealed and when they restore these. So it's always funny to see on the carpet how like there's just little bits and bobs of things just kind of on the floor. It always makes me laugh to like randomly see a Snickers wrapper on the carpet.
No, those were all on purpose. We did
Oh.
that.
Okay.
We knew it was going to be high res eventually, and we did it to evoke laughter.
Oh, okay. That
Absolutely. We had a whole Snickers box there that we would just randomly. I never saw a Snickers. You have to send me. I want to see the clip.
There's a couple where you can see where there's mark tape where like people's marks are on the ground. There's a couple times you see like lint, and like there's like you can sometimes pick out things here and there. I was just being facetious.
Snickers. I have never seen a Snickers wrapper.
Hey, we'll find it. I'll find it. Yeah. Okay. Next question. What's the most used app on your phone?
My photo app, because I'm currently doing a documentary photo study of Hollywood Boulevard, which I know well. But I go and shoot regularly day and night, trying to get into a deeper understanding of Hollywood Boulevard. So I use the camera all the time.
Great.
Thousands of pictures all the time.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Shag, marry, stun, or kill? Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise.
Okay, I'm not sure of the question. Shag?
Okay, so shag
or marry,
stun, kill.
So
I added a fourth.
So, and I mean, kill is good drama, but I assume that's pejorative. So shag is the positive. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Shag, Deep Space Nine. I can't use the same one for all of them, right? No.
That's up to you. No, but you're free to do what you want.
Okay.
Okay.
What comes after shag?
Marry.
Okay. Shag, Deep Space Nine, marry, Enterprise. What's the third one?
Stun.
I would stun Voyager and kill Next Generation.
Okay. Love it.
My choice. Not everybody.
It's your choice. Hey, that's your opinion. These questions are for you, David. Okay. What makes good Star Trek?
Well, I use the word emotion, and characterization, and taking the audience on a journey with a character, so that they go from point A, where they're in some kind of distress or some kind of trouble, and taking them to a resolution where they have been able to overcome their obstacles. You have to have obstacles in a show. And if you can take that character on that journey and they do it with grace and fortitude. I'm currently watching John Ford's The Searchers, and the journey that John Wayne takes in The Searchers is one of the great travels for a character. And if you can do that in a Star Trek show or any show where that character can go on that journey, it's pretty phenomenal.
Great. Now, on the flip side of that, what makes bad Star Trek? Other than a bad A plot with a muse a writer writing about writing.
No, that's a good question. I wish you had asked me that in the notes, because that's. Let me ask you what makes bad Star Trek, because that would help me.
Oh, sure. I think it's a good. I think when you said it, pretty much the opposite of what you said of what makes good Star Trek. I think when the characters don't go on a journey. I think when you're not along the ride with the character and you don't know them. I think Star Trek fails when the characters don't connect with their audience. Like when I don't feel like I know them. Like in some instances, like for Voyager, like I never felt like I knew Harry well enough. And I think that might just he maybe didn't get enough plots, or I didn't resonate really with his plot really. So like Harry episodes, I always feel a little disconnected from.
Yeah.
He's had some good moments, but they've all had good moments. But like, I think that character was just sprung to mind for that.
Yeah, Harry's a good example. I directed several episodes with Garrett, and he was a very giving actor and stuff, but he was underwritten, and they never really, knew what to do with him. Sadig on Deep Space Nine, who played Dr. Bashir, they had the same problem with him for the first couple of seasons until they realized what they had to do with him, and they fixed it.
Right.
Even Avery was the writers didn't know what to do with Avery, and again, it took them a couple seasons, and the visual quality that they finally realized was to shave off his hair and give him the goatee, because that was genuine and authentic to Avery, and therefore genuine and authentic to Sisko. They might have seen Sisko in a different realm initially, and that wasn't Avery.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, what's your most controversial Star Trek opinion? I think you did say it earlier, but what is your most controversial Trek opinion?
Well, I'll think of a different one. I don't know. These are hard. What's yours? You got to help me.
Oh, I mean, the one that you said earlier that I would love to hear you elaborate on is that you said Deep Space Nine isn't Star Trek.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty controversial.
No, that's a great. I can tell you exactly. The other three shows are Wagon Train. I'm drawing from my youth. And Deep Space Nine was Gunsmoke. Gunsmoke didn't leave the city or the town, and Wagon Train was always on the move.
Right.
And
I was thinking.
Okay, go ahead.
I was to say, Deep Space Nine I always view it as the anti-Star Trek. So the colors of Star Trek in my mind are red, blue, and yellow. And Deep Space Nine, it was orange, purple, and green to me. So it just felt like the anti-Star Trek.
Perfect.
Yeah.
The magic of Deep Space Nine is that you have this disparate group of characters. I won't say people because they were aliens, who all have different wants and desires and goals, and they're all in conflict with everybody else, and they're trapped. They're trapped on this station, and they have to make do. And how are they going to get along to be able to survive? In one moment, they hate each other. In the next moment, they love each other. And that's the magic, where you force people into a situation where they have to learn in some way to navigate this incredibly complicated situation. We talk about trying to get together with different cultures on Earth. Can you imagine what Deep Space Nine was really like? And you do see it, how these cultures clash. And one man's ceiling, as Paul Simon said, is another man's floor. So that was the magic of the show, and that's why I love it so much and think that I don't say it's Star Trek and that it's my concubine or whatever the term was.
Yeah, you're shag it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Actors love to talk about taking memorabilia from the set. Have you stolen anything?
Never.
Never?
Never. No, I would never do something like that. That's horrible. I used to get these huge boxes when I was a producer of the tchotchkes. What are they called? The toys and stuff that Paramount would put out of all this Star Trek stuff. And I gave it to my son, or I gave it to my nephew, or I put them in the garage somewhere. I got rid of it all. If I had have kept it all, I wouldn't be talking to you. I'd be on my Caribbean island getting tan.
That stuff goes for quite a bit of money online now. Yeah.
Well, think about if it were still in its shrink wrap, that it had the package has never been opened.
Yeah.
You know? That would have been
sure.
mucho buck, but I didn't do that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, who would win in a fight? Picard, Sisko, Janeway, or Archer?
I'm going to say Picard because he would be able to intellectually avoid the conflict. He was really, really good at that.
Yeah.
It was sometimes a limiting part of his character, but his strength drew from that. So Picard.
Yeah, great answer. Okay. Salty or sweet?
Both. Yeah. Being vegan, I need to have my fixes.
Sure. Yeah, you got to find something.
Yeah, but I'd say both. But if I have to pick one, I'll take sugar. Why do you ask these questions?
They're just to be silly. That's all. Just so we get to know you a little better. That's all.
Only test or okay.
Yeah, they're just silly. Okay, another silly question. Another silly one. You can only choose one superpower: flight, telekinesis, or the ability to sit down without groaning.
Flight. I remember my most profound dreams are flight, and how for days I still felt that they were real, and the freedom that flight gave me was the same freedom. And I don't want to be pretentious, but when I felt that I did something creatively well in my mind, whether it's a photograph or whatever, it reckons back to that feeling of flight, of that freedom of je ne sais quoi. I don't know how to explain, but it's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, I get that. That's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question. Did you have fun
on your podcast?
Yeah, you have fun with us.
You guys are great. I mean, you cut me off in an hour. I usually do 2 hours for these things. You can't shut me up. So and your passion and your knowledge and stuff, it's great. You guys, and I looked at some of your other podcasts, and you were great.
Oh, thank you. Tell all your friends. We're here for more interviews. They can come hang out.
Well, you should. Anybody trying to get a hold of somebody, if I know how to get a hold, I'd be glad to try and get a hold of them for you.
We'll send you the list. Don't worry.
We have a list.
I think that's how you found me. I think through, I don't know.
Oh my goodness. The wrong button, always. I'm so sorry, David. I was trying to bring everybody. I have feedback for StreamYard after this. I'm so sorry, David.
If you go to conventions and I happen to be there, I would hope that you would, wrangle me and come and say hi, and we could talk.
Of course.
Absolutely.
We're at SCLV almost every year.
Yeah.
Go and say hi. We'll buy you a drink with me. Thank you so much for all this.
Well, being a vegan, I also don't drink, but that's okay. I can have.
It could be a mocktail, a fun little something.
I am not fun. I am not fun.
Well, you couldn't tell us that after this hour. You're great.
I was going to say, I beg to differ. You are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, David, thank you so much for joining us and dealing with all of the tech issues earlier. Thanks for getting past that and sharing your knowledge. This has just been absolutely delightful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us in the chat. We will be back next week with another interview with some additional Star Trek legends in production. We've got the writers of Star Trek Con joining us next week at 6:30 p.m. Pacific. So be sure to join us for that. And until next week, please live long and prosper.
All hands abandon ship. Proceed to the nearest evacuation zone immediately.